What's up, traders? Matt from the Trade Brigade here doing a technical analysis on ticker symbol LIFE for aTyr Pharmaceuticals. On the left-hand side, we have the daily time frame, and on the right-hand side, the 30-minute intraday time frame. This, of course, is something we have not covered yet, and there was a clear catalyst today. There was not only news about a positive approval for something that they're developing, but also a price upgrade. So all things considered, a lot going on in terms of the headlines for this one right now. But you're here, of course, for a technical analysis, and I'm an expert in price action, not so much fundamental analysis and reading into the headlines. The first thing I want to do is just give you some perspective by zooming out the daily time frame. So everything's all good, right, for now, and then we get going, and what's going on? Oh, this doesn't look so great, right? So the one thing I would just encourage you to keep in the back of your mind, looks like I would have to scroll to get some more data here, is just that this has a history of the, pump and dump. And maybe it's not pump and dump. Maybe it's buy the rumor, sell the news type activity. Who knows? You can call it whatever you want to call it, but please just be careful and at least know the context of the things you're getting into before you get into them. So I just wanted to give you that brief little overview of the history there. In terms of a daily roadmap that we can use to navigate this one going forward, certainly a gap up this morning, and we filled some of the gap, but not all of it. So under 584 fills down to 561. I just point that out to note that it's there. Obviously, the close way up here would not indicate that comes into play anytime soon. And also, looking at the extended hours session data right here, we're currently trading 1027 by 1030, so that is a gap up over today's session. Let's go ahead and throw the extended hours on and just see what's going on kind of here in the post market. So currently today's high, of course, we'll just put that in there at 929, and right now we're trading higher. So for the sake of today's video, we will assume that we're opening on a gap up come the bell at 9:30 tomorrow morning, but a lot can happen between now and then, right? So what we're going to do is cover a framework that you can use, and again, these numbers can change, but the framework remains the same. So for now, we'll use those two numbers as overhead open and overnight highs. So if we open at the 1014, right, this is technically the open, that's going to coincide with where we're trading right now. If we fail to take out the overnight high and we trade back down through the open, that's what we would call a gap and trap, and the target would likely be the closing of that gap back down towards today's high of day at 929. From there, you're going to monitor for continuation into that daily range. We'll pick out some targets in just a moment, but that's the first scenario, of course, the gap and trap. Now, the gap and go, the flip side of this coin, is probably the one a lot more people are rooting for, and that would look something like this, right? If I scrunch up, get some more room, if we open here, consolidate in this range in the earlier part of the day, first 15, 30 minutes of the day, break the overnight high, then you're looking at the gap and go. And we're just going to be targeting the next major overhead area of resistance and scrunching up this chart. Is there anything that we can see within recent striking distance? And not really, right? You can certainly see that the majority of the price action from these higher levels is pre-split, right? So this 1 for 14 was a split back there, and that's since adjusted price. So I wouldn't really look into that too much and really just treat this as a movement into blue sky territories, essentially, even though it's not technically blue sky territories, right? It's going to feel like that though. So probably just monitor, on something sub 20, probably still your 10-cent marks, 25-cent marks, 50-cent marks, and of course hold dollars as we move overhead up and over that 1059 if we move up and over that 1059 pre-market high as it sits right now. So that's the upside levels, obviously just blue skies, monitoring for continuation. If we take out the gap fill area and go lower though, what would be the next area to really pay attention to? Probably this one right here, I would argue, at this $8.47 mark, and then after that, the low end of the pullback from in here around 722, just some benchmarks to kind of gauge the strength, right? If we completely roll over, slice right through these areas, that's obviously a huge sign of weakness. You wouldn't want to be involved in any of that. If we come back down into range and we start supporting here at the prior high before the breakout into the post market, then that would be a better sign of strength, right? Maybe you look for hammer candles here, indecision dojis, basically anything that would make you question, is the pullback coming to an end? Can I flip long over the highs and get back up into some of those overhead targets? The last thing I want to point out here is the fact that volume was extremely heavy, right? So huge volume influx on today's session. If this even starts to dry up and gets back down into, essentially non-existent areas like it was back here prior, then this is going to roll back over, right? It has a history of doing that. It needs momentum to remain strong. And if volume dies out, this would not something I want to be involved in to the long side at all. And just as a quick reminder, if we go on over to the trade tab, and what you'll notice, of course, is that this is going to be easy to, wow, look at that. So I'm thrown off balance by that. Easy to borrow. So this is shortable. So maybe you do want to short it with shares, right? But certainly not with options. In my opinion, this option chain here is just not something I would want to be involved in. But that is actually surprising to me. So completely caught me off guard. Was going to kind of expect this one to be hard to borrow or, none to borrow, but easy to borrow here inside of life. Very interesting. testing. So maybe you do keep it on your short radar as a potential downside play. But as of right now, definitely making that move to the upside. We'll see if momentum can remain strong. The main thing to watch out for here is how the gap unfolds come the bell at 9:30 tomorrow morning. So if you enjoyed the video, if you learned anything new, certainly let me know down below in the comments section or by giving the video a thumbs up. Don't forget our main channel is linked in the description, and all of that being said, I wish you a green trading week.